Looking for a bank you can trust? Look no further than Home Trust Bank, the premier banking service provider of our region and dedicated sponsor of Talking Ship.
Jeff, did you know that for nearly 100 years, Home Trust Bank has been building relationships with customers based on integrity and trust? Whether you need an account, investment help, or a home or business loan, they've got you covered.
I did. I actually refinanced my house with Home Trust. Headquartered in Asheville, Home Trust employs people who live in our neighborhoods and care deeply about our community.
Choose Home Trust Bank for all your financial needs, because when it comes to banking, trust matters. Visit them today at hdb.com.
Let's talk some ship!
Woo!
We opened a podcast recently. I think it was a Katie Button episode. And I was like, have you ever met somebody and knew you were destined to be best friends? And I feel that way. I don't know if our guest does. Let's find out. With today's guest, we have an uncanny connection. We've been out to eat numerous times together. And I think only once we didn't order the same thing.
Wow. You're like twin souls.
We are.
It's, I think that's why it's probably why I like all your tea so much. It's like, It's like we have the same
It's
thing.
delicious.
Our boys. It's like, oh, I know I'm gonna like this flavor. That is a special bond, and I appreciate
special
it.
Bond.
And I'm glad to share it with you, Ashley. One of the fun things about Ashley is you've been in town for like a week or 2 weeks when you came to help me do my TEDx prep, and then we went out, and every time we went to eat, it was like, well, where do you want to go? You're new in town, and we got to go to like. When you live here for a while, you kind of forget about all the novelty of fun spots. And so I got to kind of be a tourist in my own town for a while. That was fun.
Always fun to be a tourist.
Now Ashley's a total pro. And
yeah, I'm still not getting there. I love suggestions. There's a lot of good food here in Asheville. And I don't know. I'm the type of person that likes to try new things. I don't like necessarily doing the repeat thing. But everyone has their favorite places that they love going to. So I'm happy to be along for that ride.
Ashley was baiting me into releasing my boycott list, which I'm not allowed to talk about or allowed to have.
Ooh.
So we will not discuss that any further. But
We all have a
apparently there's
secret
a guy
boycott list.
named Kef Kaplan who has a restaurant boycott list in Asheville. It's definitely not Jeff Kaplan, proud employee at the Chamber of Commerce.
We won't mention it.
Greetings, shipheads, and welcome to Talking Ship, the Venture Asheville podcast, where we talk about issues and topics in entrepreneurship. If you're looking for a podcast on the business model of the Mean Girls movie and musical, that's our sister show. You can't ship with us. Who are we? We are the Venture Asheville team. Venture Asheville is the high-growth entrepreneurship initiative of the Economic Development Coalition for Asheville-Buncombe County. We build entrepreneurs and get startups funded. I'm Jeffrey Kaplan, the skipper, the ship's captain, director of Venture Asheville, lover of a home remedy a friend taught me a long time ago. When you get a little tickle in your throat, you feel a cold coming on, she would say, do hot water, lemon juice, and cayenne pepper. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of our guest's special blend, the Lavender Chamomile Kick, which we'll talk about shortly. With me, as always, is the wonderful, smart, talented, considerate, and creative Juliana Moon Walker, our master of interactive media. Moonwalker, what is good?
Things are going okay over here. I just, you were talking about bonds, special bonds before the podcast started. And I actually got a special pair of bonded cats yesterday. I adopted two cats. They're domestic, long hair. One's gray, one's white. They're 9 and 10 months old, and they are adorable. And I got them from the Yancey County Humane Society. Mm-hmm. So support your local shelter.
Is that where Spruce Pine is? Spruce Pine is that Avery or Yancey?
Spruce Pine's in Mitchell County, which is in between those
way
two.
Off.
So I looked at Mitchell County Animal Rescue, but they didn't have any that really spoke to me.
It's good. It's good that you rescued pets. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, of course. Adopt, don't shop.
That if you had adopted that pet in Buncombe County, there's like a 90-95% chance my wife would have spayed and neutered those animals for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
We love the work she's doing. That's awesome.
She does, and she's good. I don't think she
can do it in like 5 minutes.
She's good at like hacking private parts.
Yeah, and she does threaten me with that occasionally. Like, remember, I can do a neuter in 3 minutes.
Oh.
So I was like, when she like gives me like too much wine, like gets me in a deep sleep, I'm like, uh-oh. She is
Keeps a scalpel under her
very
pillow.
talented and skilled surgeon. And I actually have a picture of her doing a horse emasculation in vet school, which is a term for that procedure in horses. And it is a graphic photo.
I don't want to see it.
I have my phone and I show it all the time. And she gets very embarrassed when I show it. And like, I don't know why. She's just doing a procedure. It's not her laid out with these like farm hands holding it down. And
yeah, no, it's not embarrassing. It's just
I
maybe
should
a
talk about
little
this much
graphic.
more. It's not like HIPAA issues. She was in vet school doing her thing.
There's no HIPAA. Yeah.
No, what else you have to do in vet school? They have to wear a glove that goes from your fingertips to your shoulder. That's for the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they impregnate the cows. I had a friend that did that in college. She was a vet.
And birth them, right?
All the way up to the shoulder.
All the way up.
Oh,
we should do a show just about the business model of the glove industry, because that's fascinating stuff.
Well, we've got what is it? Isn't there a local manufacturer who makes plastic gloves? Or like, I don't know. It's Baxter's that makes plastic bags for the IV bags.
Okay. There's a deal here early in the HCA acquisition of Mission. They created a venture fund, and it was late 2020. They built in Fletcher a PPE factory with gloves and gowns and masks. Maybe we get a tour there and ask them if they're making special sized gloves for our veterinary friends.
You said you did ask them?
No, maybe we could. Maybe that'll be a fun episode. Season 4, season 5, maybe.
Who knows?
I think this is one of our last episodes on season 3.
We'll do it like Stanley Tucci style.
I would like that. Very engaging. Hey, speaking of Stanley Tucci, today we get to speak to one of my favorite newcomers to Asheville, Ashley Haywood. That was an awful segue, but I had to get off vet talk. Founder of Embrew Tea. She's a public speaker, a home shopping network pro, which y'all know I idolize. She is a master of time management, an Elevate founder, NC IDEA super competitive grant winner. We have so much to discuss with Ashley. Let's talk some ship.
Hey. I've been looking forward to this. I have some notes ready. I can't wait to share about my business and the couple of other topics that we're going to dive into because I'm real excited about it.
Great. So you weren't always destined to be a tea impresario of the Asheville region, utilizing co-packers and complex ingredients, these amazing brews you put together. That was not your, I guess, like career plan. Like, I think the first part of your entrepreneurial journey I know starts in Costa Rica doing online marketing. What were you doing before Costa Rica and how'd you get there? What's that all about?
I went to Clemson, graduated with a graphic communication degree, which is like fancy for the printing industry. Didn't want to be in the printing industry, but I dabbled in graphic design and then quickly realized that account management was more my thing and account strategy and things like that. So I worked for a company in Charlotte, actually, so I wasn't too far away before I went to Costa Rica. I worked for a product development and advertising agency there. So
Costa Rica, you weren't there just like surfing.
That was not our primary reason for going.
You had a pretty cool tech-focused job there. Can we talk about it? It
was bizarre in a way. Like, I have a couple of jobs where looking back, I'm like, I'm not sure what happened and why that was my destiny, but it was an online poker site. So I worked I was a brand manager and did marketing and managed creative projects.
Did you play a lot of poker before that? Or you're like, this is going to be cool?
No, I didn't. I had played poker. I'm familiar with like 5-card stud and
sure, that is one of them.
Yeah, that is one of them. I learned a lot of other types of poker. It's just a really interesting world, not just being in a different country and being in a Spanish speaking country, because there's tons of expats that go there to work on illicit types of businesses like online poker. But yeah, learned a lot. It was a little bit as shady as you would expect it to be. But generally, I learned like a ton and was just loving being immersed in a different culture.
If we did an Elevate poker night, would you just run the table? Would you hustle all of us?
No, but I have a dealer that can
Oh,
help.
yeah. Awesome. All right. So eventually you and Jonathan, right, your husband, left Costa Rica and you went to Florida. Is that your next stop?
Florida. Yep. We decided not to go back anywhere that we had been before.
Cool.
He grew up in Florida in Fort Lauderdale, but his sister lived in Tampa area. So we decided that was what we were going to do. Stay with her, with our 2 dogs. We didn't have kids yet, and borrow her car because we didn't have one of those either. We left, pretty much sold everything after we got married. Fun fact. We moved. Well, all right. So we got engaged and got married within 2 months and then left the country within 4 days of getting married. So there was a lot of, I don't know, that kind of just exemplifies how much I try to cram into a very small amount of time.
And that wasn't like spontaneous. It was just you were ready and you made the move.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had been dating for 1.5 years. So, I mean, it wasn't for long and planned, but as soon as we realized we wanted to go to Costa Rica, we went for vacation. I interviewed with a company, got the job by the time I got back. We were already engaged and we just kind of accelerated everything.
Do you feel that way? We'll get into your business in a moment. Do you see that reflected in your business decision-making?
Which part? The accelerating and impatient?
When you're sure of something, just moving forward and going real quick.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Although I will say that when things are uncertain, that's when I have trouble making moves and I stagnate. When it doesn't feel certain to me, there's a lot of question marks and a lot of fear. And fear is relative, right? I didn't have as much fear back then as I do now. And something about having kids really.
Totally. Your risk profile. Absolutely. I just had to sell a car for that reason. There's no airbags in it. And I was like, I can't be a responsible adult and put my kid in this car with no airbags. How stupid is that?
Well, airbags kill kids until they're a certain age. So you probably had a little bit of time.
So maybe I moved too soon.
Maybe.
Well, that's the other side of the coin of your positive trait. I showed the negative side of it. That was great. All right. So you're in St. Pete in Tampa area, which people probably don't know is headquarters of Home Shopping Network, which is merged with QVC.
Yes.
And I'm just going to shamelessly say that is my dream job, to work at Home Shopping Network and be one of the people who sells products all day, every day. Well, what was your experience like there?
Get you an in if that is really a dream. I do.
I don't want to live in St. Pete again, do I? Can I do it remotely from my office here?
I think they do these remote shows now. I've gone.
All right, great, Juliana. I'm really sorry this is how you found out. That I am leaving as director of Venture Asheville to sell knives, plates, apparel for Home Shopping Network.
Yeah, and you get commission. Yeah. So you are like a salesperson.
Oh yeah, anything in the CPG space, sign me up. No, really, I've always found those folks to be so talented. I love the infomercial thing. I as a kid, I would stay up late and watch Ron Popeil and the Billy Mays stuff over and over. I could not get enough of it. And then the old Gallagher stand-up comedy bits, the Sledge-O-Matic, where he basically parodies an infomercial. And I've always were drawn to them. I never really understood why. Years later, I read an essay written by Mike Rowe when Dirty Jobs was peak popularity and when I was in college, I guess. And he talked about one of his first jobs was for one of these home shopping networks, QVC kind of things.
Really?
And gave him a screen test and said, hey, for 5 minutes, you just need to talk about this pencil. And so it's not sell me this pen. It's just talk about the pencil for 5 minutes. And he got to the end of that 5 minutes and he starts talking about how it feels in your hand and the benefits and the ability and what it allows you to do. And a great, super quality rubber and these erasers. Let me show you how it works. And he's, doing it. At the end of it, the producer goes, great. Can you do 10 more minutes? And I was like, okay, just 5 more after that. And that's what turned the salesperson on in his brain. Was to not talk about feature, but talk about benefit. What does this allow you to do? Right? What does this open up with the use of a pencil? And then I've really internalized that. I think that's what helps me in my job. Talk to folks like you and all of our founders, get into your mindset and consumers' mindset really, really fast. We're only focusing on benefits. But that's not exactly what you were doing. Anyway, let me just back up. That's why I'm so obsessed with Home Shopping Network and infomercials. I just think it's a talent and a skill, and it blows me away. Love seeing somebody perform at their best, like watching an Olympian. To me, it's like watching Home Shopping Network. It's bizarre. I know. What were you doing at Home Shopping Network?
Well, I wasn't on-air talent. That was on the TV side.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on the digital side, so I've always been e-commerce, marketing, branding, account management. So that role, I was hired in to be the brand and account manager for the highest grossing single brand, and which it happens to be a single person. It was the vitamins and supplements guy that's been
You're kidding. That's the #1 Home Shopping Network product?
Unreal, right? Yes.
Wow.
And he's been selling on there for like 30 years. So his name's Andrew Lessman. Talk about somebody who can engage and talk about the benefits. And he, built
I hope he's like a ripped 80-year-old man.
He's pretty in shape, I will say.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is? Have you seen him?
I've seen like the juicer. I'm thinking of the juicer guy. I'm blanking on his name, but he was like deep into his 60s, really, really fit, like thin, small guy.
You're talking about the guy that
The juicer guy.
that did he had like fitness. I don't know what juicer guy you're talking about.
I think you're thinking of Tony Little.
I was thinking about
the Gazelle.
That's not him.
Yeah. No, I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about another guy who just did juicers.
Yeah. Maybe that wasn't my category.
Picture an elderly man who is in amazing shape, and he credits it all to, well, guess what? The juicer. You can get his results. That's how it works.
Right now for $19.95.
That's right. But wait, there's more. So when I was a kid, right, Home Shopping Network QVC, it was like dialing for dollars, right? You see a product, it's got a 5-minute spot. But when you were there, it was so much more about e-commerce and the online portal.
Sure. But it was all driven by TV. So that was the crazy thing that I had to, going into a job, this is another job where it kind of blows my mind. I get there, and even at that time in 2016, I think 2015 is when I joined, the majority of, so it was about 50-50, the amount of transactions of people calling in on the phone, placing their orders with a credit card, and then about 50% of them going online to buy the product. But it's always driven by what's on air. So whatever is on air, you've got 50% of people calling, 50% of people going online.
So on air is your funnel.
Correct.
Right? Even if somebody calls in, they've got to have some back end that's going to tie into a database that you're also working on as you're looking at product and the tags and how it fits on the web pages. So I guess, did you learn how the sausage gets made?
In terms of the
e-commerce infrastructure and the full funnel customer life cycle.
But I have been exposed to that before. It's a little bit different when you're coming from a company that's that large and it's built. It was a proprietary system built for TV shopping. So all the back end is with things in mind about products that are going on air, what's up next, what was in a show. And so they were building like product carousels that were related to the products that were going on air. So it was very cool, complicated, and cumbersome at the same time. There wasn't anything that you could do to quickly make a change in a system. Once they merged, it was
sure. Just a monster of a beast, right?
Reevaluating systems, building things from scratch new. And then I'm sure they still have their old antiquated systems because it's just so rooted into everything that it would break if you tried to replace it with something else. So I think they had like a 10-year runway to get rid of one of their old ancient systems.
But that's true. I'm curious if you think that informs where you went next with Embrew. So you go from this huge corporation using e-commerce and sales funnels and customer success, customer management, account management, to being a solopreneur from a huge corporation where there's a person for every job, to having to do everything yourself or figure out how to leverage resource, whether it's a co-packer or distributor, going from having someone accountable for every piece of the business. So you got to figure all that stuff out from scratch. So I guess, when did you decide and why did you decide to change from Home Shopping Network to start Embrew Tea?
It's a good question. And I think back about it a lot to kind of figure out, I don't know, for me, it was like what we were talking about before. When I know something and I feel something, I move towards it. And I don't necessarily know why or how, but the corporate environment is built for a person exactly like me who needs structure. You have a feedback loop with all the people that you work with. And like you said, there are people responsible for very small, very small world. And you have your responsibilities are linked to everybody else's. So that I'll get to later about how that just kind of like went away and how I was very disjointed after all that went away. But I think for the first 4 years that I started the business, I was still working there. And so I had a lot of enthusiasm from my coworkers about getting started in the business. I had access to so many different types of people who were buyers, merchandisers, people in tax and accounting and finance and customer service, social. Like I just was privy to and working on a lot of different projects that, I could take some of those learnings and apply it to a business of my own. But it didn't go as well as you would think. Taking a multi-billion-dollar business and the business model and trying to apply it to a startup that's tiny and it's CPG based and it's food based. Food is not a very big business for HSN and QVC. It's not. So they kind of treat it like something they have to have, but they don't. It's not a big business for them. The biggest thing for them in line with food is like food electronics. So the things you have in the kitchen. So they combine kitchen and food together. But I couldn't take as many of the learnings as you would think from how they sell food on air and stuff like that. But it was very helpful for me because I was also in Toastmasters. I chartered a club at HSN with a couple of other people and we started the club. So I was able to work on my presentation skills and what were the benefits of my product and how was I going to hone this pitch. And when I had to work on a sales pitch or something like that, I'd bring it to the club and I'd give my speech and it would be about tea and what I was thinking. And
what a mastermind group though. I'm going to workshop an idea with you guys who are all experts in the consumer product field. That's great.
Right.
Really awesome. All right. So tell us about Embrew though. We kind of breezed over that. What is it? Give us like a 30-second, 1-minute pitch of Embrew Tea, the product itself. The product line, I should say.
I love, love, love tea. Okay. It's something that it's been part of me for a long time, even in a very rudimentary way, a very Lipton with a teaspoon of white sugar in it for a long time. But then, as I got older and more sophisticated in my life, it came the same way with tea. I was finding myself sweetening the tea the same exact way every single time. And then once I had my kids, I found myself in this place where I wanted high-end loose leaf tea because that's what I had gotten used to, but I didn't have the time or the energy or the mental wherewithal to grab the infuser, the honey, figure out measuring tea leaves, which one I wanted. And if I put too much in there, it ruined it. If I steeped it too long, it ruined it. If I put too much sugar or honey in there, it ruined it. And then I had to clean it all up. That was not my idea of me time, but the me time that I needed and the moments that I had for myself were really only available to me during tea time because everything else was consumed by.
You kind of a ritual around this.
100%.
Yeah.
And it was it's something that I only had a very short amount of time for, or it was at the very end of the day after the babies are in bed and I'm totally exhausted and I'm just trying to stay awake so that I can have some me time before I go to sleep. And I don't want to mess with a whole bunch of stuff. And I want the tea to be good because so many boxes of tea that you grab off the grocery store shelf just aren't good. They promise these great flavors and benefits, and then you get it in your cup and you get to the end of your drink and you're like, what flavor was that? Because I don't even remember. This wasn't meaningful and it's not worthy of the me time that I spent 16 hours waiting for.
So you've got you've labeled all these problems with the kind of incumbents in the market of uninspiring flavors. They can get too bitter. The steeping is an issue. How do you address these pain points with your products?
So the pain points kind of came later. These tea bags were made for me. I needed them. I wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there were other people out there in my exact position that loved tea, but didn't want to hassle with anything. So once I started playing around with flavors in the kitchen, and it just opened my eyes so much to find all these amazing herbs and teas that I was not even familiar with. I had no idea that green teas could taste different. Like I had a directory.
You thought green was green, right?
I thought green tea was green tea. That's because everything that goes in those green tea bags is all the same green tea.
Right. What's unique is you start a business from a market mismatch, right? So there seems to be this inverse relationship between the quality of tea and then the convenience of tea.
Yes.
Right. The more convenient it is, it's gonna be lower quality. You just like throw that bag in some hot water, 2 minutes later, take it out, and like you're gonna get some low quality, but you're gonna get your fix, right? If you want really high quality tea, right, you have this whole ritual and this process and multi steps, and you have to watch the time on it. And so what you've done is you flip that, or you find that value gap between the quality and the convenience. So that's what it sounds like you've built here with these specialized tea bags. And again, starting with you as customer number one.
Right. And I feel like I'm the vessel for which to bring it to the world, but I am no genius. I am no inventor. Like I wanted good tea and I put it in a tea bag with some sweetener. Like not that hard. It's obvious. And nobody else was doing it. And I could not figure out why until I started trying to produce it.
Like, this is hard to make.
Right. And then it turns out that these co-packers don't want to put sweetener through their machines at the same time as tea.
Oh, interesting.
And they just aren't equipped to do that. And so I got a lot of no's when I was searching for a co-packer. I even got to the point where the co-packer that I had contacted on the West Coast was like, hey, I think I can figure this out on my machines. Send it over. So I bought the cheapest tea I could find and then like cheap white sugar just to send it over to see if he could do it. And then he's like, I opened the box and immediately was like, no, I can't do this. So he didn't quite explain why, but at that point, I'm hand scooping tea and then hand scooping sweetener into these tea bags. I'm sealing it, putting it into the packaging, and it's taking for friggin' ever. But I don't have that many customers, so it's fine. I spend one night a week in the kitchen, the commercial kitchen, to make product. But then I was connected to a co-packer in South Carolina, and the guy who referred me was like, I think they've made a sweetened tea bag before. So contact them. They probably know what to do. And so talk to them. They had put brown sugar in with one of their black teas. They're a tea farm, Table Rock Tea Company. I love them so much.
Cool.
They're in Pickens, South Carolina, right outside Table Rock State Park. And they just their whole business model is to help small tea makers like me get off the ground. And they were willing to do R&D with me for a very reasonable price. I want to say that I paid like $25 an hour for R&D. Wow. Like it was ridiculous. I'm pretty sure I paid like $500 or $600 to R&D. Like at that time, probably 6 flavors, 6 blends that I had, which was totally affordable. Of course, I spent a bunch of money for me in my business on that.
But you turned over every stone to find this resource, right? You searched and searched to find the right fit.
I did, because I thought that I was going to need a dual hopper on a tea bag, something for the tea and something for the sweetener separately that would dose together, weigh it, and put in the tea bag. And what Table Rock Tea educated me on was that you don't have to preserve the leaf like you think you do. So a lot of people are very snobby about their loose leaf tea. They're like, as soon as you cut it, grind it, whatever, you lose the essence of the tea. And that it may be true in one sense because the flavor does change, but it also exposes more of the leaf and you're getting more of that tea flavor And sometimes it might cause more bitterness, so you use less, which was the benefit for me. I was using less tea once I found out that, we would mill it and blend it with the sweetener all together, because that was the thing. They needed the particle size to be the same in order to get it into the tea bag. So I was horrified and I did not want to do it. It was breaking my heart. I wanted to preserve the loose leaf tea. But honestly, out of the 6 blends, only one of them was worse afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity there, right? If you learn how to leverage or get value out of the new flavor of the tea, right? There's no harm, no foul, right? So how do you use that to your advantage? I know that a lot of cooks talk about this, or chefs talk about this with herbs, that if you, for example, like a basil leaf, you have to like break it up a little bit, move it around, and that releases more flavor than just dropping basil leaves into a dish. And there's a craft cocktail bar here where they make some drink. It's maybe like something with a fizz and an egg white, but they lay a basil leaf on top of it. And the bartender's so over the top, he puts it like in the palm of his hand and like claps his hands, right? Like all over the bar. He just like a huge windmill to like smash and slap.
Because that's going to make the flavor better than just going like this.
But just that over the top slapping of it and then laying it down on the drink.
Yeah, and it's true. So only one of them got messed up in that process. And
we'll talk about those flavors. Talk about the 6 or whatever the product, because product
well,
mix
the
is
first 5 that I
complex.
launched with, and you say like, what does it matter? No harm, no foul if you're changing the flavor a little bit. One of my customers like literally stopped being a customer because it changed the flavor profile. I had a flavor called steamed honey green back then, and it was just a really great green tea mixed with honey. And then I had an original flavor back then that was black tea with granulated maple. It was called amber black maple. And what I found, because it was against, I guess, other flavors that I had that were more creative, those were my 2 basics, because I just thought, oh, well, I want to appeal to the people who just want their basic tea. But the truth is that the winning formula is in creating something unique. So one of the very first flavors, you mentioned it, lavender chamomile kick. That was a lemonade recipe that I turned into a tea. So it has lavender, chamomile, peppermint. There's a touch of cayenne in there and a lemon-infused organic sugar. So there is this really awesome layer, a magical layered experience that you have with this tea. So the first thing you taste is the chamomile. It's right there up front. And then the lavender comes shortly thereafter. And the peppermint is just a mouth feel. You don't quite taste the peppermint, but you can feel the coolness in your mouth. And then when you pull the cup away, that's when the cayenne kick happens, and it's in the back of your throat. So it's not spicy on the tongue. It's happening in the back.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. That's the first tea of yours I tried, and favorite out the gate, still my favorite. I think it's so impressive that you can layer that much complexity in one tea bag.
I agree.
Everything about it is amazing.
I have subscribers specifically for that tea, and they won't even try anything else. They don't want it.
Well, then, talk about a few more of the flavors you have.
Yeah, so the one that you have tried and loved is the bourbon smoked white. Bourbon smoked white was that one came about backwards. So normally I would find a tea blend and then I'd find a sweetener to pair with it. This one I found bourbon smoked sugar first when I was looking at all the sweetener options, because I had no idea that I could get granulated sweeteners in a bunch of different forms. And I found bourbon smoked sugar. And when I tried it, I was like, oh yeah, this has to go in a tea.
It's not strong like to knock you on your butt, but like you definitely feel bourbon in that.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. So it's the oak barrels. They use the bourbon barrel wood in the smoking process of the raw sugar. So it is very distinctly oak. There is a tea called Lapsang Souchong, which is a smoked black tea, but it's smoked with pine and it tastes very different. And that is more like, to me, like a suffocating campfire, where the bourbon smoked white is just like a really sophisticated, kind of like a smoky cocktail where they just add that little smoke topper to it.
If you drink, if there's like some beer is aged in bourbon barrels,
Mhm.
and so you get that bourbon flavor without the bourbony alcohol piece of it, but like the smokiness and oakiness of it, and it is extremely reminiscent of that. And you do it through sugar. It's again, it's complex, but it's really relatable and familiar. And I think that's a magic combination. Again, another market mismatch you hit that really makes it work.
Thanks. And that one has been one of my most popular teas, and I think it's because of the intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
So people see that name. It is my most popular one on Amazon. That one has drawn a lot of attention, and it kind of opens the door for some of the other teas. But it has a very distinct customer. It's not my bestseller. There's definitely about 75% of people that love it, and then 25% of people that just don't want to have anything to do with it because they don't like smokiness and they've never had it in a tea. So it really throws them for a loop. But people love those like smoky flavors, foods, cocktails. They are obsessed with it and they love it. Yeah.
Cool. Give us one more flavor you have.
Yeah. So the creamy honey oolong, that's the one. That's my personal favorite.
I drank that last week. I just had that one. Yeah.
Is that the one that you got from Amy?
Yeah, they had it at the NC Idea finals. There's like all the drink displays and snacks, and then a couple of bags of Embrew. You can grab whatever one you wanted.
Wait, that's awesome. Yeah, I loved that she did that.
Mm-hmm.
The creamy honey oolong was my personal favorite. It's made with these Taiwanese milk oolong pearls, and it's a simple tea. It's just the tea with granulated honey, but it has this really amazing buttery texture and it sounds weird to say buttery texture in a tea, but there's a creaminess and a butteriness to it that is natural to the way that they grow and process the tea.
Chardonnays are like that. Chardonnays can be buttery.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I want to talk about NC Idea. You won a micro grant. Again, super competitive. Last cycle, was it the spring? I'm sorry, so fall. What did that grant do for you? What was that process like? And for those who don't know, NC Idea is a statewide foundation, independent nonprofit foundation that does $10,000 and $50,000 grants to startups in the state of North Carolina, and also they support ecosystems and events that build entrepreneurial capacity. With that commercial out of the way, Ashley, what did the NC Idea Micro do for you?
It was a great description. The team has been just amazing, and the whole process of applying was rigorous. It's the hardest application I've ever been through for any sort of grant money or even an award for the product itself. It was very rigorous, and then you go through interviews. But I won the $10,000 grant last October, and they really want to know what you're going to use the money for. So I identified in my business before I even moved to Asheville that the wholesale channel was really where I needed to go in order to scale. As much as the social media and direct-to-consumer marketing looks all shiny and great, and there's these unicorns that make so much money.
Yeah, sure, it's buzzy.
They have an enormous amount of money, an enormous amount of budget, and I have yet to meet one that did it completely grassroots. Unless they had a Kickstarter campaign, and I learned very early on, because I launched this Kickstarter campaign too, you have to fund those in order to get awareness of them so that people will fund you.
Right. It's not just posting on there.
You got to have about $10,000 to put into a Kickstarter in order for it to be successful. Yeah. So I failed in my first Kickstarter, or my first and only Kickstarter. But the NC Idea money, I had earmarked to grow the wholesale channel, and I was going to do that by going to trade shows, buyer trade shows, which I did. I went to the Fancy Food Show in Vegas. I had gone last summer to kind of walk the show and see if it was where I needed to exhibit.
A lot of learning, not enough learning, because I didn't learn until I paid all the money to get there. It really wasn't the right show for me. So unfortunately, it's for bigger players that are ready to enter into the larger market and work with distributors and larger. Good to know. It's great to know.
For anyone who's listening, the smaller brands, it's tricky. I mean, I got 50 or 60 big leads. There's a lot of following up. I'm still following up on those leads, but I've identified the easiest entry point for me with the largest volume to be in gift. So I'm going to the Atlanta Gift
Cool.
Show.
Smart. That's really smart.
So I used like $7,500 to go to Vegas for that show. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to say that this money turned into $50, $60, $100,000 because of the leads that I made there, unfortunately.
Well, yet, maybe.
But it's allowing me to pivot and understand that this is the direction that I need to go in. And here are the things. I mean, I made a lot of good connections. I met the owner of Tea Drops. She was there and we talked multiple times. August Uncommon was there. A lot of like tea brands that I look up to, but also other food brands that you can just, I mean, everybody's so open to sharing.
Yeah,
So
but what a great use of grant funding. Like imagine if you had an equity investor and you're giving up part of your company and then it was an expensive learning experiment. You can't you're still out of the equity, right? So that's a great use of grants and why grants are another reason why grants are so important for an entrepreneurial ecosystem to have lots of grants available. Even those small $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 grants can move our company so far down the line and really help with the maturity of the founder sophistication. Anyway, I'm sitting there at the NC Ideas Seed Finals on Friday. I'm sitting behind Tom Ruhr, the CEO, and I sat down with my cup of the tea. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm glad you guys got Embrew out here." He's like, "Yeah, we, of course we support our grantees." And I said, "You could steep this more than once?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, most tea you steep once for 3 to 5 minutes and you toss out the bag and, you can steep this multiple times." And he said, "How does that work?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm meeting Ashley next week on a podcast. I'll ask her." So Ashley, explain, how does multiple steeps, this is so disruptive. And I think it's a big learning curve for anybody who's had any experience ever with tea to know that you can steep a bag, not every bag, but your bags can be steeped multiple times. How does that work?
Well, I'll start with the fact that most tea bags, 99.9% of tea bags, they only have enough tea in them for an 8-ounce cup. An 8-ounce cup is, let me look at my portfolio here because they've got little markers in them. 8 ounces is right here.
Yeah, it's a 16-ounce cup, right?
Yeah. So 8 ounces is not much at all, but the tea bag industry has not changed. And so there's just this little tiny bit of tea in there, which is probably why a lot of times tea bags aren't making a great cup of tea because there's not enough tea.
Too watered down. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of customer discovery that I've done, I ask people whether they steep more than once and that some of them use 2 tea bags in their mugs because we're all drinking out of bigger mugs. We're not drinking out of cups unless we're in some crappy office with those styrofoam cups.
Paper handle.
Get rid of those. If they are in someone's office that's listening, please get rid of them and get real compost.
Get a real cup. Better for the environment anyways.
Exactly. I can't even grasp. Okay. So then when I was making my tea bags, I'm literally doing these to my taste, right? Because I want them to be amazing for me. And so I didn't do all the fancy research and development to see what's the minimum viable product that I can tea bag.
You didn't do the Eric Ries lean startup model. I understand. Okay.
I didn't do that. And I ended up with really great flavor, really robust. And I found out that if I steeped according to the steep instructions that I had given, which is depending on the blend, if it's herbal, it's a little longer, but if it's like the lavender, for example, it's 4 minutes. If I steep for 4 minutes, there's so much life left in that tea bag that I can steep that thing again for about 6 or 7 minutes a second time. A really great second cup of tea because I put more ingredients in the tea bag. Yes, that costs me more, especially because they're great ingredients and my margins are smaller, but I take that back. My margins aren't smaller because I charge more for my product, but that's the reason why I charge more, because you can get more life out of the tea bag. And that creamy honey oolong tea bag, it's because I'm still hand making that one. I didn't get to that part of the story. That was the one that got messed up by the co-packer. And literally no matter what we tried, the flavor was dead. There's this magical aftertaste that comes from that one. And it was just dead when you grind it. So I haven't figured that out yet. It's still handmade. I'm super fast at teas. I've bought a machine. I've raced against it. It can't beat me. So I continue to train people to do the scooping, and I do it myself sometimes.
Cool.
That one you can steep 3 times because the pearls are slowly unfurling with each of the steeps. So
Wow.
yeah.
And the sweetener, then you just put in, it doesn't like all wash out in
Put
the
one
first.
in if you want to, the second and third,
Yeah.
the second steep. No, I can't preserve any sweetener because it all dissolves out within like 10 seconds of you putting it in your cup.
Mm-hmm. No, I find personally when I do it, I don't add sweetener second and third time. I think maybe because I don't know, my taste buds are adjusting, whatever it is. I just kind of reuse the bag and I don't add more.
Right. I'll do the same thing. Sometimes I'll add a little bit, but I also like to take that tea bag after the first steep and I'll put it in a mason jar full of water in the fridge and add a little sweetener, and then it cold brews iced tea for the next day. So my teas,
that's good. Nice.
That are really great for iced tea. The
Great
jazz
tea hack.
green and the
Love
strawberry on hops. That's what I've got in my cup today.
What is that one?
It's called strawberry Yopon hops.
I haven't seen that one. Cool.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
a summer flavor. I have a peach one as well that's made with rooibos. It's caffeine free, but that strawberry Yopon hops is a good one. I found a blend of Yopon that had hops in it already because I never even thought to put hops in, but it has like little astringency. And I added strawberry to it because I released it for the first time in Florida. And Florida strawberry season is huge. Like February to
Plant City.
Plant City. Gotta get Strawberry Fest.
Mm-hmm.
So I like put PR around that one to release it every strawberry season.
That's cool.
But Yopon grows in Florida as well. And I would source it from the farm in Florida. And then I would use, unfortunately, Florida crystals. Also in Florida. I feel that it probably traveled the world before it came back to me to put into that. But
well, I'm proud of you for making a Florida-based tea without using citrus, because Florida breweries can't make a beer without citrus, and not every beer needs citrus. They really don't.
Yeah, citrus isn't my thing. I did an orange spiced green for the holidays. It's like reminiscent of those, like, forget what they're called. In Holland, they poke cloves into the orange and use them as decorations. I used to make them with my mom, so I wanted to build a tea around the nostalgia of that. But yeah, citrus is not my favorite. And again, it's hard for me to add anything into the tea assortment that I don't love. So I do listen to my customers and I hear the things that they want. Ginger, I didn't have right away. Now I have ginger. People in Asheville die over that one. It's so funny. People in Florida don't care about ginger, but people here in Asheville love it. Love it.
Ginger town.
Yeah, people love people named Ginger. They love Ginger's Revenge. People love all of it. So you've been in Elevate, I guess, a year, right? You joined last summer, last spring.
It's coming up on a year. I think I joined June last year.
Okay. And in that time, you've really transitioned in the way you think about the operations of your business. And you and I last time we had lunch at Mamacita's Taco Temple, we're talking about how a new book for us called Buying Back Your Time is really changing how you operate, how you scale yourself. Oh, you got the book right there. Great. I did the audio one. I'm not going to lie. I mow the lawn and listen to books. I find more excuses to mow the lawn because I have so many books I want to read. So you got Buying Back Your Time, and one of our mentors and local investors was telling me about it before you told me about it. So you got to hear what Ashley's up to. This Buying Back Your Time thing is completely changing her leverage and how she scales herself. Tell us about it. What brought you there, and how are you leveraging some of these lessons from the book?
So it's taken me 6 years to get there. I've been a solopreneur for a long time, and I've outsourced a lot of things. I've spent a lot of money on contractors, agencies, photographers, all those things. And when it doesn't work and I've spent all this money, it gets me, it moves the ball a little bit, but the scalability of that just wasn't working yet because I had in my mind that when I'm making enough money, then I'm going to hire someone. And that is an entrepreneurial solopreneur trap. Like solopreneurship, I wish the word was never invented because it's a myth. It's not even functional.
Yeah, it's a fallacy because you have to leverage other people or contractors. Yeah, it's such a
unless you are a person providing a service, in which case,
sure, You're a
you
bookkeeper.
can, either that or you're a coach. But even in those cases, you're going to be bogged down with a lot of different tasks like scheduling and bookkeeping and, finding and talking to all the different clients that anyone who tries to do it themselves, like I did for a really long time, is just not able to see. There's like a limited belief that you can't do it, you can't afford other people and those sort of things. So I spent a lot of money on different aspects of my business, but I never invested in people in a way that was actually working with me on the business. An agency is an agency. They're helping you and they're doing projects, but they're not working in your business with you. So what I realized, and it took a lot of crying actually, because every entrepreneur knows that you're constantly doubting yourself and then excited about something and then wondering why you're doing it.
Sure.
So during
caught riding the elevator, you just go up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, and then when people like you, Jeff, not to put you or throw you under the bus, because everyone says it.
Do.
They're like, well, that is just totally normal for an entrepreneur. Thank you.
Yeah, I've said once, like, no one in the right mind would be an entrepreneur. Like, why would anybody do this? It's so stupid. Like, you're gonna beat yourself up and kill yourself for years and maybe make $1.
But the whole thing is therapy. Like, you will learn more about yourself being an entrepreneur than you will in doing anything else. And if you're not in a space where you're able to look inward, look outward, and look at all the things that you're doing and try to figure this out, then you're going to get swallowed. And that's going to be the end of it. You're going to quit and you're going to go back to corporate. And that's fine for some people. That is not what I want to do, although I romanticize about the relief I would feel about showing up in an office telling me that I'm doing a good job and that the work I'm doing is making a difference. And it's like, I don't.
You mean the external approval?
Of all of it. Yes. External approval is.
So, you're hitting on something that is, first I want to commend you on. So many people try, fail, and don't try again. You have the spirit of failure as learning, and you will try something. If it doesn't work, I'll try something else and try something else. That alone, that is an indicator of someone who has the tenacity to be an entrepreneur. So I
really like that resiliency summit. And one of the speakers talked about the difference between, it was tenacity and resilience.
That was me. I spoke about that.
Okay. Yeah. And I really thought that was amazing to look at the difference. Yeah, because resilience is like what happens when you get knocked down, you become resilient. But tenacity is what you need in order to just keep hammering that stone, which is what that guy Brad was talking about. But
let me this now that you teed me up so well. Now, we look at tenacity and resilience as two sides of the same coin. And the best metaphor for this is bull riding. That tenacity is how long you can ride the bull. Eventually, how much abuse can you take? How tough can you be? Eventually, you will be knocked off that bull. No one rides forever, right? You're going to get knocked off. And resilience is how long does it take you to get back up?
Right.
And the definition of resilience is truly like the ability of a spring to reform its shape after being bent out of proportions and all that, like how you snap back. And then I believe our goal at Venture Asheville and our purpose of the summit is to help entrepreneurs become bull riders, not rodeo clowns.
Yep. It's a great analogy. And I think it's absolutely true because you also have to, though, think about what your mindset is once you get knocked off. And I guess that's where resilience comes into play. But a lot of people will get knocked off and then they'll brush it off and then they'll go back and try the same thing again. And then it won't work again. And they just think, oh, this has got to work. I'm just going to have to keep at it. And
that shows a lack of learning.
Right. And that's where I was at for 6 years, not learning that I can't do this by myself. Gotcha. I thought I was going to have a breakthrough and I was going to get one big account and then I'd have the money to hire somebody to help me in the business. And the truth is that I feel the universe is not providing for me because I'm not opening my business to get the help that it needs. And my business deserves more than just me working on it. And that's the truth. Yeah, maybe I need to, I want to and will be the person that's, looking at the strategy, but I can't be the executor of everything because then I'm the executor of nothing, or I'm, half-assing the execution in every single way. So I just felt like I was drowning over and over and over again, trying to find the thing today. Like my routine was I'd wake up and I'd figure out what have I neglected for the longest? What is burning the hottest? And then I go work on that and kind of like get it to where I thought it needed to be. And then I'd, work on the next neglected thing. And you can't make
You're just putting out fires. You're always reacting, never planning or being proactive.
Right. And I just could never seem to get caught up. And what I learned from somebody in that really low, dark time of wanting to quit the business, somebody recommended, and I can't remember who it was because I really need to thank them. They recommended the Buy Back Your Time book and the author. And the book it spells everything out like it's written exactly for me. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs fall into this trap, but the first thing that they have you do is audit your time. So this was really fun for me because I had never really, and what the author doesn't do, and it's probably because he's a man and has a lot of masculine energy, he doesn't ask you to feel your tasks, like sit in the tasks that you feel. Like he says, yeah, which ones are you most annoyed with? But like for me, it was really important for me as I'm doing tasks to audit how I feel about them. Is it something that gives me energy or is it something that sucks away my energy?
Cool.
And what are the things immediately, like he has quadrants and you put different things in different quadrants, but like, what are the easiest low hanging fruit that you just get so annoyed with that somebody else could easily do? And those are the ones that you start with. And what I want to be able to do and help other entrepreneurs is look at those tasks and help them identify like, what are the things that are most easily passed off to somebody who doesn't cost a lot of money and can free you up, just even if it's barely freeing up time, it's freeing up a lot of mental capacity and that darkness that you're getting from a task that you hate doing.
Sucks your energy.
Exactly.
What I was really impressed with in the book was they even go as far as to give you a formula of what you can budget to spend on those assistants or those other contractors. Do you have that formula handy? Do you know it offhand by any chance? It's something like, well, I'll try to speak to it while you dig up the exact quote.
Yeah, actually, it's right here. Oh my God, I flipped right to it. This is like serendipity.
Amazing.
So the buyback rate formula is take your income, like your personal income in your business, and divide it by 2,000 hours, and then divide it by 4 again, and that gives you an hourly rate. So the example they give, I wish this was the case with me, $200,000 a year, divided by 2,000 hours, and then divided by 4, and you get $25 an hour. So you shouldn't be working on any task in your business that you can pay somebody $25 an hour or less to do. And a lot of people think like, well, I'm not paying myself that much and these things have to get done and I don't trust anyone else to do it. And the guy addresses all those things. And what I've noticed, because I don't have a buyback rate, because I'm not paying myself enough to have a buyback rate, but I do have what I find, what is my value and what was I being paid at my corporate job previous. And so I can do the same math and figure out like, and also like, what is my budget? Like, what can I actually afford to pay somebody right now? And then I went to Upwork and I put projects out there. And there really is like a way that, again, a learning curve, because I put projects up there and a virtual assistant role up there.
You're basically interviewing your contractors.
Yeah, but there's a way to do it where you aren't just flying in the dark. So what I've learned from a friend of mine through a PR program that we were in together, she has used Upwork for years in her business, way before the pandemic. And she made sure that I understood, like, what is the task that you want someone to do, and then break that task into smaller tasks. And you're taking one of those smaller tasks and you're putting it up there and you're seeing if people can do it. And then you give them a paid test project that kind of mirrors that. And while they're applying, you add screening questions so that you know, how creative are they? How resourceful are they? Are they, what's their English level? And then are they able to keep to a deadline? And then you do a paid test project where it costs you $10 because you're paying them $10 an hour. You want them to spend an hour on the project. And then you can really see what they come back with. And if they need a lot of hand holding or if they ask good questions, those are the things that really help you get weeded through the candidates that aren't optimal. And you don't have to wait weeks and weeks to find that out, or weeks and weeks of struggle. And then you've put so much time into that person that you don't want to start from scratch again. Like, it eliminates kind of the headache in all of that. So that
low cost,
great for
fast, efficient model for finding the best assistants if you're on the VA route, like you are, contractor route.
Right. So I've ended up, like, I put something up there for a VA because that's what I thought I needed in reading this book. But after auditing my time, I realized, like, I need somebody to help me manage inventory. So one of the people that I identified was very skilled at organization, and he understood the complexities of a business. He's in the Philippines. The project rate that I put on there was $10 an hour. And he's helping me take what poor inventory management system, I'll call it, Google Sheet, and modify it, make it better. And then when I'm, in the kitchen making tea, I send him a list of what was made, and he's deducting packaging. He's adding products to the website. He's telling me when I'm running low. He eventually will be reordering with the co-packer so that I don't have to spend mental energy preparing and thinking about that too. But, like, that came out of a project. I put a test project out there for PR, and he did okay in parts of it, but I could tell he wasn't going to be the person that was going to be the face-to-face interaction for me to, make contact with the media or podcasters. I found a different person for that, but man, has he really excelled and helped me just take a huge thing off of my plate. And after auditing my time, I knew, like, inventory management takes up a lot of my time, and I don't need to be doing it. It's formulaic.
Sucks your energy, doesn't motivate you. You're not looking forward to doing it first thing in the morning. So what are the things that do give you energy? What really drives you and motivates you to keep hitting at that stone of this business, waiting for the thing to just blow into a bajillion pieces?
That's what my mentors in the Elevate program were asking me during a really dark time. And I think when everything feels like it's sucking your energy, you can't really hone in on it. Like, I know what I used to think was really energizing and inspiring, but that changes over time, especially once you feel like you're excited about something enough times and you're disappointed enough times that you lose hope in those sort of activities. But now that I've been able to hand off some of these tasks that I know that absolutely don't energize me, like I got a new CPA, a bookkeeper, that stuff's never energized me, but I've had to kind of stay engaged with that stuff up until now. But now it's freeing me up to continue to audit my time, because that's what, Dan talks about in the book, is like, you're never going to stop auditing your time. Your business is going to change, your day is going to change, your wants are going to change. And so now I've been really energized, like, making these SOPs to, like, hand off to people and finding the tasks that I know somebody else can do and training them to do it. But honestly, what's really energizing me is that I want to teach other entrepreneurs how to do it. Like, I don't even know what that looks like for me in the future. But I'm thinking about doing, like, either a virtual summit or some sort of in-person training, something that just opens the door so that people like me who are crying on the bathroom floor, even if they have a really successful business, there are things that they don't even consider as something that they can take off their plate and hire out tasks that will just give them so much more joy in their business. And I want to be able to share that.
It would violate a lot of trust and confidentiality, but I want you to know, so many of our entrepreneurs have told me they've been crying on their bathroom floors, that it's like
I have no doubt. It's
many.
like,
Shocking. It's not shocking. It's surprising. These people who we look up to, their role models are successful. We tell people, look what they're doing. And you see them in the news, you see the headlines.
that makes us cry worse, by the way.
I know. I know. Sorry. Everyone's going through it. It's part of the
Yeah, so I want to
process.
be able to help people do that. So I've already started a couple of one-on-one calls with some people not in the Venture Asheville program or the Elevate program, but I want to make sure that I understand and have figured out the nuances of execution. But I feel like all I have to be is like 3 steps ahead of another entrepreneur in this area to be able to help them. I don't have to have it all figured out. And it's already changed the dynamic of the way that I feel about my business. I have hope again.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I really am able to find the parts of my business that I love doing and working on. One of the NC Idea grantees, she was a speaker in one of the meetings that we had. She's the owner of Piedmont Pennies. She's in Raleigh, I think.
Oh, I just tried her baked cheese snack.
Did you? Did they have that at the...
It was next to your tea. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. But she and I loved like her talk that we had virtually, and then I connected with her afterwards. She's the one that led me to the CPA that she uses and bookkeeper. But she told me to go through this exercise of identifying your EELs. So EELS. And that, let me see what that stands for. So your EELs, like on a daily basis, like people who journal, I'm sure would be wonderful at this. I'm not a journaler, but it was helpful. So find the thing that excited you about the day and energized you. Find one thing that exhausted you, and then find one thing that you learned. And it very much
awesome.
Coincided with what Dan was asking me to do in the book, which was audit my time. And it was like, this helped me identify the things that I was.
And you can score that, and you can look at that objectively and figure out the best use of your time. Phenomenal. So much I want to keep saying, but we're going so long in this podcast. It's so much fun talking to you, Ashley. I just want to say that the topic we're speaking of, I don't hear a lot of other entrepreneur support organizations talking about it. And it's one of the things that we do at Venture Asheville very openly and very proudly about the entrepreneurial journey. We've really, the last couple of years, shifted so far away from everyone needs to go fundraising, everyone needs to scale, everyone needs to kick ass. And instead, we put all of our energy on the entrepreneurial journey. And I believe this is totally I want to take full ownership of this. If anyone's got a problem with it, take it up with me. Is I believe when people are performing entrepreneurially, when they're living entrepreneurially, they live into their full potential. And I believe that's the key to a better society, because it all starts with the founder. The founder is inseparable from their venture, and all the contractors and employees and mentors and people like us that you're going to interact with, right? The more you're living in your potential, more fulfilled you are, the higher you're going up a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That has a positive effect on everybody you interact with.
Right.
And if we have a whole city in Asheville of people acting and performing entrepreneurially and living into their potential, this becomes a great place to live and work. And everyone, it just seems to be just higher functioning and feeling more safe and secure in themselves and how they present. And it does. I keep using the word infect, and we talked about this last week, and we got to find a better way to permeate our society. I believe it does change society, and folks like you who go on to teach others and lead others, that not pyramid scheme effect, but how you infect more and they infect more and they infect more people, that outbreak of the entrepreneurial spirit, leads to positive outcomes for society, because you folks go on to serve on your kids' PTA. And you might be on the school board, right? And how does that entrepreneurial mindset in that context help those folks perform more entrepreneurial, living in their full potential? And what about other elected officials? What about other nonprofits you may be serving on, and how you're going to affect other charities and the outreach they do? So I guess I'm very optimistic when I talk to folks like you and the outlook I have for our region's future. And I do believe it comes out of Venture Asheville's tone to walk away from scale, grow, exploit opportunity for return to shareholders, and to focus on the entrepreneurial journey, help the individual become their best version of themselves.
Right. And that's how success is built anyway. I feel like, I mean, everyone has their own definition of success, but when you are living in your full potential and you are highly motivated because you have energy from all the things that you're doing, that brings more opportunity and more money and more sales because people can feel the energy.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm witnessing just by putting some of this stuff into practice. And like, speaking of the practice, I also had a book here called The Practice. It's a Seth Godin book. I think that book is a little bit depressing because the main message is that you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and showing up and keep doing the work. And then something magical will happen. But I think what Seth is missing is like, how do you sustain that? How do you keep going back and banging on the rock, hoping that it's going to split open and you'll have this big thing happen? Like, you have to put good energy into it, not just resentful energy. And this has got to work, and grit energy into it, and that's where I think the buy back your time method is really promising, because you can put your foot in front of the other one every day and feel good about it. And it's not a slog as much. Love it.
As per tradition on the show, the final question goes to Juliana Moon Walker.
Heck yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for this like completely honest and transparent conversation about some of this stuff. I don't know if it's always communicated how difficult and lonely entrepreneurship can seem and doing all of this. I just want to thank you for that first. But I guess all of this kind of started with the ritual of you making tea. And I was just wondering, where do you find, those kind of rituals that, all humans kind of need today? Is it still with your tea, but just a shorter ritual, or is it something else?
Well, I am not very ritualistic in nature because I'm an Enneagram 8 with a 7 wing. But what that means is I love
the challenger. So the challenger 8.
8 is the challenger, yeah. So that's like how
I'm a wing 8.
Are you an 8? Jeff?
I'm a 3 wing 8.
Wait, you can't be a 3 wing 8.
This is what people have told me. And
so maybe you have a lot of 3 qualities and a lot of 8 qualities.
I did an online survey with Desiree, our ops manager. She's big Enneagram.
Okay. Well, we need to talk deeper into this in another podcast.
I'm 3 wing 8.
We should do all of the Enneagrams.
I like this idea a lot.
I'm a 2.
For me, like, makes me very resistant to rituals. Tea, though, to me is ritualistic in the way that it calms me and makes it very, I don't know, I can still have a really good taste, but it doesn't have to be the same every time. And for me, I have learned that instead of forcing myself into a routine and a pattern just because everyone says it's the right thing to do, I find ways to embrace my spontaneity and my need for things to be different every time. And I try to build those into a routine. So it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I will maybe I'll wake up 3 days a week at a certain time and I'll have my tea. What I like to do is I send gratitude text messages to my friend Gail, and I send her 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things that I'm asking the universe for, and 3 things that I'm proud of myself for. And that changes every day, right? And it doesn't feel like homework because I'm not physically writing it in a notebook, because I'm not a journaler. Journaling feels like way too much like homework.
We've talked about this. I feel like that should be an AI chat bot, and that'd be a great business.
What?
Instead of texting your friend Gail, if you text to a chat bot, and it's like, hey, what are 3 things you're grateful for today? Like,
right.
Nice. And then, what are you,
I thought you meant an AI bot that could tell me what I'm grateful for, so that I can.
No, that's got to be from the heart.
Well, thank you guys so much for this. I am really excited about the next steps for my business and the next steps for sharing what I've learned with other entrepreneurs. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that through LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me outside of the tea business. But if you're an entrepreneur and you want help, LinkedIn, search Ashley Haywood, or you can visit my website, embrew.com. I actually created a coupon code for the Talking Ship people. So embrew.com, you can save 20% if you use Talking Ship for your coupon code.
Ashley, you're an excellent guest. You make this
Yeah.
so easy for us. Thank you
I
so
can
much.
tell you have marketing in your background.
Yeah. Thank you. You're a pleasure to have in our community. It's great having you in Elevate, and we all love the product. I'm actually going to buy some after talking about it for an hour and a half. I need some in my belly. So I'm going to go in the gift shop here at the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center.
Please do.
And buy some Embrew Tea.
They have cold brew too.
I've seen the brew. The brew set's beautiful. Ashley Haywood, Embrew Tea, thank you so much for talking ship.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.